Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ball Watching. You'll notice we are a man lighter today. I think someone might have had a little bit too much fun out celebrating what became a night to remember last night in the first edition of the Capital Classico, the Heartland Derby, the Cease and Desist Derby. You can name it whatever you want to name it. But I am here with you all today, Jake, to celebrate what became a momentous occasion last night when St. Louis, in the first installment of this derby with Sporting Kansas City, absolutely demolished them 4-0, 4-0, as the folks over in Europe might say. And we're going to talk about it today. We're going to bask in this recap and really enjoy it. Yeah, I've seen some comments. I think Justin was spotted last at the pitch, shutting it down. I think he was helping clean tables after. So I don't know if we're going to see him, to be totally honest, but we're going to keep going. So to start, actually, I want to start with a quick plug. The pitch was just mentioned. So, hey, so the pitch, obviously, we love it there. The food, the drinks, the people are incredible. It also has some incredible storytelling with some of the artwork, pictures, and blurbs beneath them of St. Louis as a soccer town and the soccer capital. So if you haven't been there, really encourage you to check it out. And if you haven't been there yet, a quick cool thing coming up that we want to make a plug for is they have guest bartenders coming up. Yeah, guest bartenders on Sunday, May 28th. So coming up just in a week now. And it'll be Lucas Bartlett and Tim Parker, the center back pairing from last night. Yes, those two will be bartending as guests at the pitch, mixing them up, shaking them down from 4 to 6 on Sunday, May 28th. So if you haven't been to the pitch yet, find an excuse to go. It's going to be an awesome time. I'm sure they'll be whipping up some tasty cocktails. We actually talked to Lucas's parents last night at the pitch, and they said that he had some bartending experience. So we could be seeing some nice cocktails flowing. But yes, Lucas Bartlett, Tim Parker are guest bartending at the pitch next Sunday, May 28th from 4 to 6. Get there. All right. That out of the way, I want to say my one-word summary for the day, and it's so well-timed, is just capital. And I say that for a couple of reasons. We are the soccer capital. We always have been America's first soccer city. The fact that any city, much less Sporting, or at least Kansas City, would come out and say that they have, one, trademarked that, and two, that it's rightfully theirs, is nothing short of ridiculous. And I also say capital because we put a capital W on that game last night. I mean, absolutely nailed the coffin shut. That was demoralizing, I'm sure, for this team. And I'm going to get a lot more into this. But what a way to start this type of rivalry. I don't think you saw as much of that physicality and the chippiness that I think we might have been expecting, but that'll come. This is just one installment of 3 meetings coming this year, 2 of which are home. So I'm looking forward to seeing them again at home a little bit later on in the season. But for my word of the day, it is capital. And I think it's very appropriate for what we're talking about today. Before we get into the game, I just want to say, too, there was some pregame drama before we even got into the game. And that began with Rob Heineman, who is a co-owner of Sporting Kansas City. He had this to say on Twitter. He said, "Let's enjoy the rivalry while we can," and then tagged at Taylor Twellman. "St. Louis football history suggests this team relocates, probably sooner than later. Don't you think?" And I just want to say, Rob, bad call, my man. That is not something you want to give this crowd right now, because absolutely got ratioed. I was one of them. And for an co-owner of a professional franchise to come out and throw that kind of shade at another professional franchise who is also in a way helping them, you know how the MLS works. We talked about it before. All these owners are kind of in the same group here. They're kind of just operators of the team, but in the end, they all want each other to do well because that's more money in their pockets. So the fact that he's kind of coming out and throwing shade at our team is way below the belt. Fan stuff on the table. Have fun with it. I definitely did. And I'm sure if we lose to them, they'll have some fun. Hopefully not. But I couldn't believe that's what happened last night, and that's what he put out there. Also, social media-wise, if you looked at Sporting's promotion for the game yesterday, it was very angled at slighting St. Louis. And you look at ours, and it was very much about showing light on our roots and our soccer history and why we are America's first soccer city. And I thought that was just funny because you kind of get a little bit of an inferiority complex vibe from KC there. So it's just fantastic to see how we're already living rent free in their head, but they've been a team in the MLS for almost 30 years now. So I am very, very excited today. And let's jump into some of the highlights from yesterday. There were plenty. If you all have some, feel free to drop them in here. I'll post them up here. And if we have topics or questions, we'll get right to it. So yesterday, obviously a very, very different tale from the last couple of games prior to this. We saw immediately an opportunity come. And I think the 4th minute when Silo was able to find Stroud and he fought through and found a shot on goal. It was a great save from the goalkeeper. And that kind of gave me hope that that type of opportunity that was going to come more often in this game, because that was one of those chances where I don't think we had maybe one of those the last couple of games. So I was really excited to see that very early on. You saw Berkey get involved in the attack very early on as well, doing one of his classic javelin throws that led basically on a rope to Gioacchini, who was holding on to it and got a foul called on him. Called against Sporting, and he won a little free kick for us. You saw Leuven last night in the 8th and 12th minute. I remember him shooting from distance. This guy was not, he had license to roam a little bit more last night, and he had license to pull the trigger, which was fantastic. And the fact that we didn't concede early, I'm seeing comments here. Yeah, we didn't have to chase the game last night. We let the game come to us. We let KC take possession, which was fantastic. We talk about that all the time. We want that type of game state. So that was great. And you see a lot of other great moments. You saw Hebert have a nice header win where he just clattered into whoever it was. That guy took a beating. I forget who that was. But finally, we were able to break through in the 19th minute with our PK, but not before. This goal, by the way, anyone that wants to go back and watch it, I would show it up here if I had the copyright footage. But it personifies the type of goal we want to score as a club. You see Tim Parker step up to stop the advancing Sporting KC attack. He steps in, puts a challenge in, wins the ball. It falls to Indy, who's a little more advanced in this game. He lays off to Leuven, who then passes it forward to Nico, who's holding the ball up in the box, has a nice little flick onto Indy, who draws the PK. PK, a little bit of a conversation for sure. I know Sporting felt very slighted by that call, and apparently it went to VAR. I was there, so I can't speak to that. They don't show anything in the actual City Park itself. It looked like a PK from the initial viewing, and then I saw replays. I rewatched the whole game this morning with Will, who was also very jacked up about the win. That was his first win since he's been alive. And I don't know, it's definitely a soft PK call. I think the fact that it was called made it very difficult to overturn, because the ruling there has to be clear and obvious error in the call. And I don't think it was very clear and obvious, but definitely a difficult call. And I can see that being something tough to swallow. You saw Vermees come out last night in the post-game press conference, the coach of Sporting, and basically just addressed that right away. He's like, wasn't a PK. So I don't know if I would go that hard into it either. It was definitely loose from the Sporting KC defender. And you know what? We're going to pounce on that. And you see no complaints coming from our section. So we were very excited to see that. Leuven, no doubter with a PK. He's had 2 this year that had just been, the goalie could dive. The goalie could be informed about a second before where that ball is going. Still not going to get to it. Absolutely incredible PK. But yes, so the call, definitely controversial, but glad that we end up on the right side of things there, because there'll be days where it's not going to go our way. So let's just take our luck and run with it. In the 25th minute, we break through again with another classic St. Louis City SC style goal. You see Blum this time make an incredible sliding challenge in the middle third of the field, almost kind of borderline attacking third of the field. Again, not letting Sporting get out of their own defensive half. And we advance the ball quickly. Stroud wins that ball after Blum makes the slide challenge on a very clean, and he slots through to Nico. And no, sorry, not Nico this time. He slots straight into Indy, who is being guarded by Graham Zusi. And man, I feel bad for Graham Zusi. I know he's been a long-time KC guy, long-time U.S. men's national team guy, but I cannot believe that he's still playing for them, because he was exposed last night and Indy just absolutely sent him. He was obviously very upset after the goal, but yeah, Endy kind of turned him, made some space out in the left, and fired a shot past the goalie, who definitely could have done a little bit better on that chance. So great to see Endy get in the back of that. I think that was his first goal of the season for us, and I'm going to talk more about Indy specifically because that was a different role that he played last night, and I loved it. And it was great seeing Blum at the starting point of that attack, making an incredible challenge. That is exactly what we brought him in for. I'm seeing comparisons to N'Golo Kante from Chelsea in 2019, and maybe his time at Leicester as well. What a beast in breaking up play, and that's what Blum was for us last night. And I hope we see a lot more of that. There's nothing indicating that it won't be there. And he played 78 hard minutes last night. Has not played a full 90 yet since coming back from his injury. So I could see that on the horizon for us. So that was in the 25th minute, the second goal. Otherwise, we kept some pressure on. The first half, for the large part, was mostly ours. The second half was a little bit of a different tale, but first half, we kind of had all the momentum, all the progress, obviously had 2 goals to chip in for us. And then halftime comes. Everyone's feeling great. 2-0 is a great lead to have at half. And we haven't seen too much threat at all from Sporting. They looked tired, which is to be understood, coming off of a Wednesday game against LAFC in LA. And they just didn't look up for the occasion, especially in the first half. And I think we were able to pounce on that. For anyone that's coming in here just seeing that Justin is not here, I don't know where Justin is. He could be sleeping. He could be in a ditch outside of the pitch somewhere. If anyone has seen him, please notify me and I will see if I can go find him. But now we're in the second half talking about highlights, and we saw a long ball from Roman Berkey. Sporting kind of botched how they're going to handle it. This is in the 55th minute. Stroud kind of came out on top. It was a loose ball, and he slid and just kind of towed it into the path of Nico Gioacchini, who used his cheetah-like speed to get down to the box for Sporting, kind of creating space between himself and the defender at a good angle so the defender couldn't close him down as fast. And the goalie comes out, and Nico has the composure just to chip it right over him. An excellent finish, and I love to see it from him. That kind of finish takes a good bit of skill and a good bit of confidence. The timing, the speed, the precision, it all needs to be on point. And I was really glad to see him put that away. You could see how much it meant to him. I saw in the post-game presser that this is a quote from him. He said, "I usually say it's a game like all the others, but it wasn't. I came prepared for this game. I was going to take no prisoners today. They had the chance to take me back when I was young, and they didn't." And people might be forgetting that Nico is a KC native. I don't think KC Metro, but maybe just outside of KC, maybe Overland Park, if I'm curious. But yeah, obviously had a lot to prove. And had chip on his shoulder, which you love to see. And he came back and just bit him last night. And you love to see it. Him back on the board, playing a little bit of a different role as well, which we'll get to. You saw him drop a little bit more into the attack in terms of sitting with the defenders, playing off their shoulders, trying to get in behind last night. Whereas I think we've seen him kind of playing, or trying to play at least more of the Klaus role, where he drops more into our midfield to get the ball, hold it up, connect play, which he can do to a certain extent. But I liked him a lot more last night playing in that position. Otherwise, for us, second half was a little bit of a downturn in the sense that we definitely were under a little bit more pressure from Sporting. They had some chances, especially at the end. They had a late flurry of some incredible chances. You're not getting by Roman Berkey, man. Last night was just another etch in his notebook of why he is so important to us. He is, like everyone knows, the highest paid goalie in the MLS, but the stats back it up. He has been incredible. He has been incredible for us. He keeps us in these games. His leadership, he's not afraid to jump down people's throats when they're not making the right decisions or they're not doing what's best for the team, which I love to see. And I just loved everything I saw from Roman Berkey last night. He had, I think, 5 or 6 saves, 2 of them being point blank, one of them of which he had no right to make. Could be save of the season. MLS, not just St. Louis. Incredible. I don't know how he saved that. For the goalie's perspective, I think he literally saw the chance culminating. It was about 6 yards, maybe 7-8 yards, point blank from Sporting. And he kind of just threw his body up at where he thought it was going to land. And he got there. He got there with two hands and parried that baby away, which was awesome to see. We had a great view of that. I think it will be the save of the year for the club, should be in the running for the MLS, and he should be cemented in the team of the week for this match day. Actually, I think a lot of our guys should. At least a couple should be in the conversation and on the bench. It was a great, great team performance last night. So I see some comments in there. I could not agree more. Finally, like I said, we absorbed a little more pressure. And then in the 75th minute, we finally get our fourth. And it's made by one of my favorites, Tomas Ostrak. Comes on in, I think, the 78th-ish minute. And he comes on, intercepts a pass, and drives for 40 yards with the ball on a progressive carry. Meanwhile, Andy Vasilev, so Ostrak's kind of driving inside with the ball towards the middle, towards the goalie, and Indy is on his horse behind him, hustling to provide an option on the overlap. And Ostrak and him are on the same page, same wavelength, obviously. He flicks it over to Indy at the right time. Indy hits a beautiful left-footed curler into the far post, a no-doubter. I loved it to see that from Indy, because 2 goals last night. So his first and second goal of the season. And he's not playing as much of that 8 role where he has a lot more defensive and offensive responsibilities. He was very free last night to supply Nico and to build our attack. And we saw how dangerous he could be. So I loved to see him doing that. He looked so dangerous on the ball. He was constantly involved in almost every one of our movements. And last night they asked him what it meant, the whole soccer capital thing last night to him. And he said, he pointed at his sweatshirt, which had City plastered across it. And he said, we proved that tonight. And that's kind of all I'm going to say about it. So I love to see these guys get hyped up for a rivalry, which a lot of them don't really have the St. Louis connection or KC connections. A couple of them do. And a couple of them kind of know what Midwestern cities, these blue collar cities are about. But for guys like Berkey, for guys like Stroud, who don't have much connection to it, and Indy, of course, another example, to see how much it means to them. And they just kind of inherit this, and they understand the assignment, and they go out, they get fired up, and they do it. Finally, before I get into some stats, great to see Johnny Klein debut last night. Just graduated from SLU last year. We took him in the super draft, which was a surprise, but I think a delightful one for all of us. And he got some minutes last night, which was great to see him on a short-term loan agreement from City 2. He's been lighting it up so far for them this year. And that's the kind of pathway you want to show as an academy, as a coach, as a front office staff, that, you put in performances, you put in the work, and you get good output, we will reward you. And we saw that with Johnny Klein coming on last night. He hadn't even made a bench yet. He hadn't been on the first team roster. So to see him get minutes last night, and substantial ones at that, maybe 10, 15, was great. So we'll see if we see more of that. But last night was a perfect opportunity to give him that and that reward. Otherwise, I'm going to go into some of the stats for us. We had about 34% possession, which is phenomenal for us. We are loving that for ourselves. We do not need the most possession. We do not need the most passes to be dangerous. We, in fact, like otherwise. We actually came out on the bottom side when it comes to XG. We generated 1.49 XG last night to their 1.63, which some might say, that kind of sounds off. And I will say I agree. But when you look at XG, it doesn't matter unless you're being productive with what gets put in front of you. We had a goalie that would simply not allow a goal last night, so they didn't get a goal. They had a goalie that I think maybe let in 1 or 2 that he might look back on and say he could have done better on. And we made the most of our chances. We had 3 big quantifiable chances last night, scored all 3. They had 2, they missed both. And that's the difference. That makes that kind of lethality, if that's a word, or being lethal in the box with whatever you're given or whatever you earn. That's how you win games. And we've talked about that before. And this team showed that last night. So very, very glad to see us be very effective with our chance taking last night. We had literally less than half the same amount of passes as them. But when you look back at the defensive stats, which you always talk about, tackles, interceptions, blocks, clearances, keeper saves, obviously, we came out on top in all of those metrics. The press was active last night. It created 2 goals. You could say 3 if you want to count the 4th one as well, with Ostrak blocking that pass. So to see that on display and to see it working as effectively as I think Carnell and Lutz and Hackworth would draw it up, they have to be very, very happy to take away that performance and to see that press working the way it does. I will say it's complimentary to our press that KC is a team, to their credit, that comes out to play. They're not going to be a team that sits back. They know that, they do know our weaknesses, and they could have very well just sat back and played a low block last night and forced us to try to beat them. And they came out to play. And I appreciate that from a spectator, even just one that just likes to watch good soccer. No one wants to sit back and watch a low block. But teams will do that to us because they know that we'll struggle with that, and we'll have to find a way around that eventually. A lot of teams do, not just us. But I appreciate Sporting coming out to play last night. It did kind of bite them in the arse. But that aside, great to see Carnell make adjustments. Like I said, we had Hebert switched out to left back to make room for Bartlett and Parker in the middle, with Johnny Nelson out on suspension from his red card this past weekend. I thought Hebert played exceptionally well at left back. That was great to see that versatility from him. We saw Blum come back in, who is just so tenacious in the midfield. I don't know how he went so long without him. I missed him so much, seeing what he gives us on the field. He is in every fight. I feel like he wins almost every single ball, which is fantastic. And he has good pass work too. He's a good connector. He can dribble the ball. He can dribble out of pressure. So he's got so much going for him. And he's still so young. And we're so young in the season for him, after having missed so many games with injury and COVID. I'm so glad to have him back, and I can't wait until he can go 90 minutes for us game in, game out. And the other one I want to say is Nico Gioacchini. I saw some post-game comments too around how they switched his role over the week. They had found that he was dropping in a lot, like I said, too much to look for the ball and trying to draw those fouls. And they said, Nico, go play off guys' shoulders. Go try to get in behind. Go try to create havoc. And we'll play you some long balls. We'll look to connect with you. And we saw bits of both last night. We saw long balls over the top. We saw through balls. We saw moments where he was able to flick on and connect with his passing partners like Vasilev, like Leuven. And we found danger in both those elements. And that's what I was asking of Nico all the time is I don't think he's the most effective when he's just constantly dropping in, kind of like a Klaus type character is. He needs to be able to be supplied and run in behind and use his speed like we saw on display. So Indy Vasilev absolutely unlocked Nico Gioacchini last night, like prime Nico Gioacchini. So an incredible game from both of them, and from many of our players, which I'll get into. But before we go into the lowlights, I want to say I'm very happy about this. I'm very happy about this. Obviously, I'm buzzing. You can see me smiling on the screen right now. But Sporting also on Twitter last night, this is after the game, had put up a tweet with the 4-0 graphic. And I'm not one to go diddle-daddle on people and kick them when they're down. But the caption on the game was, our 2-week, 5-match stretch closes an STL, which to me was like, all right, guys. I mean, that is such an excuse. Like, yeah, I know you're playing a lot of games. We're gonna have to play a lot of games at some point too, and probably have some fatigue set in the legs as well. But I kind of said, all right, sounds like a little bit of an excuse. I'm sure some of you saw that. And that tweet actually ended up getting more replies than likes, which tells you a lot. It was a mix of St. Louis fans saying, oh my God, guys, like give it up. And a lot of their fans saying, what are we doing? How is Vermes still our coach? We're so awful so far this season, despite this 3-game undefeated streak they were on before we decimated them. So it's just a lot going on behind the scenes too. And I think everything kind of falls into that boiling pot of fun back and forth with this rivalry. KC, before I get into the lowlights, it's kind of like that friend, we all have one, that self-dubs their own nickname. And this soccer capital thing is just a perfect representation of that. Like, no one told them that. I don't think anyone was like, oh, when you ask a stranger on the street, yeah, KC definitely is a soccer capital. And now, having lived there a couple of years, I could see they cared more about soccer than the normal city for sure. I would have never said they're a soccer capital. And the fact that they were calling themselves that and wanted to trademark that and take it a whole bit further is just funny. We all have friends that do that. I can think of one off the top of my head, Iceman, if you're listening, self-dubbed Iceman. It stuck for him. I'll give it that. It stuck for him. But it comes from nothing. No one was calling him Iceman, and no one had an ice story with him. But some lowlights before we get into some of the where we go from here and player ratings for today is just you have to talk about some areas for improvement. And there were some moments last night, and I'm not going to harp too much on them, but we saw, you guys all remember the miscommunication between Berkey and Parker, where I think Berkey wanted to come out and grab the ball. It was kind of bouncing, but there was some KC attackers still in the area, and he and Parker had a miscommunication, and they ended up Parker just ended up booting it out for a corner, and Berkey was obviously upset with that. Want to definitely improve that. I think our set piece defending is probably the biggest thing for me. That's the biggest worry at this point. We look shaky. Every corner in the first half last night, I rewatched the whole game this morning, we lost. And it was the same guy, SKC center back Rosero, that won every first half corner kick with his head. Now, fortunately, he didn't generate a ton of great opportunity from those. One of them he did. But we got to win those corner kicks, guys. Like these are chances that are great opportunities for teams to hurt us, and we've got to get better at defending those. So I want to see that improved for sure, and that's been a thing that we've seen more recently. So it's not like last night was the first evidence of that. Obviously, when our press gets broken, we do see a lot of guys running with their stomachs to goal on our defense, which is never good. You want the backs to goal. And when we get turned, it gets really scary, really, really scary with any of our midfielders or any of our center backs. I love how aggressive they are. I love to see a Tim Parker, a Lucas Bartlett come up with the forward who's dropping deep to get the ball and stay on their back and don't let them turn. But when they do get turned, it's a little nervy sometimes. But it's kind of a catch-22. I love to see the pressure and the aggression, but you do kind of worry sometimes about what we're giving up in behind during those moments. You saw KC a couple of times last night look to switch the play on a long ball, which I think is a great idea for any team playing against us because we do like to create overloads and put players under pressure with multiple bodies following certain cues like a loose touch or a undercooked pass. But you saw them, go to that switch a couple of times last night to relieve that pressure. And when they do effectively switch the ball, we have to transition our whole press over to the other side of the field, which does take a little bit of time and a lot of legs. So I think that's a little bit of a vulnerability there. Otherwise, I want to see us finish out games a little bit stronger. Obviously, it was 4-0. Game was over. But the clean sheet was still there for the taking, and we did end up getting it, but not before Roman Berkey had to stand on his head to maintain that. So I want to see us kind of lock it up a little bit better. There were some moments last night, especially late on in the game, with I think I saw a couple Miggy Perez moments, Ostrak moments where it just struggled to clear the ball or just dump it into the opposing team corner. And those are things that you need to be able to pick up, especially when you gain more professional experience in this league. You've got to be able to see out the wins. It doesn't matter how ugly it is. And if that game is 1-0, I'd be a lot more frustrated today. But doing those things right, even in the games that you have under control, that's a great way to practice and get that kind of skill honed. So I want to see us close a little bit better, especially defensively. Moment of the game for me was Berkey. That save in the 84th minute, the point blank one after the crazy unlucky bounce that just landed right to a KC forward where he just jumped in front of it and saved it was incredible. There's nothing short of that. I haven't seen a better save this season, and I don't think I will from him or from really anyone else. So that was my moment of the match. Man of the match is tough. I have to give it to Indy because he showed so much last night. 2 goals. And obviously his first 2 goals of the season. And I want to see him play that role moving forward. I was so happy for him last night. It was just so great to see. And Berkey would be a close second. Obviously, keeps us in the game. It would be different if we don't have him in the net, literally anyone else. So I love to see that last night. And before I go to player ratings, I want to say, too, we are still, by the way, affiliated with Series 6. Series 6 is still a sponsor of ours. I know we haven't talked about them in a while, but that's because they do so much great on their own. They don't really need our help as much. But I will make a quick plug for them. They do have a May charity shirt of the month. Series 6. We've talked to them before. They have such a great charitable purpose behind what they do, and they create these charitable shirts every single month in collaboration with different organizations. And this month of May, it's with the Muni. We all love the Muni. If you haven't been there, it's one of the St. Louis's greatest traditions, having an open amphitheater for amateur plays and theater. And there's some great ones, man. I've seen a couple there. But it's world-class entertainment, and it's outside in Forest Park on a lovely night. What else could you ask for besides going to City Park? But they have an awesome, cool-looking shirt for this month, and it's teaming up with the Muni. And basically, 100% of the funds raised go to the Muni and keep it going. Keep the doors open. Keep paying the crew and the actors and get more entertainment in there. So if you like the Muni, if you like Series 6, you're looking for a cool shirt, go check out series6company.com online and use code BALLWATCHING for 15% off at checkout. And check it out. There's obviously that shirt, and there's plenty of other gear as well that has either soccer, Cardinals, Blues, Budweiser, a lot of local establishments in St. Louis. They have a lot of those shirts, kind of like I'm mentioning, for places like Joya's, replacing places like Blue City Deli, that I can think off the top of my head that I think you all would be cool to check out. It's kind of t-shirt season. We're almost officially here in the heat of summer. So go check out Series 6 and use code BALLWATCHING for 15% at checkout. Player ratings time, baby. So I am going to keep this easy because I know we're starting to run into this 30-minute time zone right now. But player ratings for me, everyone did exceptionally well last night at their job. Is there room for improvement to get even better and sturdier? Yes. Berkey, A for me. Our center back pairing last night, Bartlett and Parker, A for me. They took care of business. Yeah, there's a couple moments there. But there's going to be moments. And I think left back Hebert and right back Nerwinski didn't remember too much about the performance last night. And I think that's a good thing. So I would give them an A, B plus. And then moving into midfield, Leuven and Blum, I love that pairing. They have such a different skill set, but they complement each other so well. Definitely an A. Want to see more of that. And getting up to central attacking midfield with Indy. Indy, like I said, immense last night, just immense. Definitely an A for me. And then Stroud, I thought also played well. He was a big chance creator for us. Fantastic to see him in that role and with the confidence he was playing with. And I want to see more of that from him. I think he can be a significant contributor for us. And man, who else am I even thinking about right now? Otherwise, I think all the rest of our forwards, had an exceptional game. I'm really proud of Nico getting that goal. Celio, not his best performance, I would say, but he worked hard. He was tireless out there. He even to the last, couple minutes of the game. I love to see him put in a shift like that. A lot of our attack was channeled down the right. So that is that for us. But that's kind of the player ratings for me for today. And it looks like we have a little special guest joining us here. Justin, people have been wondering, people have been asking. I couldn't tell them you were alive. Care to explain?
I was alive. I saw your text this morning at 6:30. I know Will gets you up early. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to move my alarm forward. And in doing so, I moved it to 8:30 p.m. And so there you go.
Okay. Wow. This is the adult life with Justin Graham.
Welcome to it.
Welcome to the show.
Had a nice, just went to the pitch right after the game, and I was home by 12, which was nice. And then just got a nice Sunday snooze. So I apologize.
Yeah. Well, we're at the end here. I'm just.
Oh, I know. I've been watching you for the past 15 minutes, getting ready.
We're at
doing a very good job. Surprising.
We're at predictions. Justin, you and I came out greener. I predicted 3-1. You predicted 2-0. Both of us were wrong, but like right in the middle of us both. And we both won money. You bet the city money line, right? And I bet the over 2.5, and you bet team total over 1.5. So it was a fruitful night for the boys.
Yeah, we were throwing that up during the game. The over 1.5 hit in the first half. Your game total over 2.5 hit early in the second half. That was the one reason I sent you a message on here. I was like, should I even hop in? I was like, oh, we're about to talk about predictions and bets. And I'm like, all right, well, we did well. If we would not have done well on our bets, I think I would have just stayed out of this. But yes, we had a very good time last night.
Well, Justin, that's all we have for the show, really. But I want to give you a quick moment to say any of your reactions, or if you want to do a one-word summary to try. But I mean, obviously it was a fantastic game, but I want everyone to make sure that they get the Justin thought in before we close out for today.
Well, I saw that we still had where we go from here. And I know your brother last night, Nick, was giving me a little bit of trouble about how I was saying we were going to Disney World the entire time for the first couple of weeks when we were 5-0. I think we're going back to Disney World. No, I'm kidding. I think we are out of Memphis. I think now we're in like Destin, Florida.
We're moving.
We're working our way back down there. Yeah. But overall, I mean, I saw you going through the player ratings, everything. I would say one thing I wanted to mention as well was I was interested to see. I haven't been a huge fan of Celio starting, and I know we had this debate, and I want to get your thoughts real quick on Celio versus Nico. And obviously when those guys and when Klaus comes back, I thought Celio had the best feet on the field. Every time the ball came to him, controlled, very good the 1-2, created chances. And then when Klaus comes back, Nico did finally get a goal, which was helpful. So I think now he has more solidified that starting spot. But my first opinion during the game, I was like, maybe Celio kind of takes over for a second. But that was my final thought.
Yeah, no, and I want to talk more about that during the preview too, because I think a lot of that depends on what we end up doing when Klaus comes back, because I think they'll ease him in, especially if we can score goals without him like we can last time. I'm not saying we score 4 goals a game, but if we can score a couple of goals a game and count on a threat consistently from Indy supplying Gioacchini right now and playing that same front three that we did, I think there won't be a huge rush in bringing him back. But the Celio Gioacchini debate is up for taking, and you got to think about Alm too. Because Alm comes back. So it's great to have this problem, right? We have rotating personnel that are all proving to be pretty capable of cementing themselves to be competitive in those positions. So I agree. It's a big debate coming up.
In my one word summary was silencing is what I'm going to go with. Is everybody on Twitter in Kansas City needs to be quiet. Their fans started leaving early before the game was even over. That owner, or part owner that tweeted, that tweet's gone. I know you already covered that, but just silence them completely.
Yeah, it was a night for sporting. Everyone have some fun on social media today. I'm not saying go tweet at people, but go read it. What's been put out there. It is incredible. It is nothing short of incredible to see the memes. The memes are on fire. Even the club account last night did the Captain Phillips meme with the "I'm the captain now," and they did the "I'm the capital now," and I about cried, man. It's just people come out. Everyone's, I saw a quote. It's the rising tide lifts all boats. When we're winning, man, everyone's happy. Everyone's winning. We're winning. Everyone's laughing. We're putting memes out there. We're having a blast. So let's hope that these ways continue.
And keep it lighthearted. We already talked about stuff last time with Johnny. No need to attack anybody.
No.
It's all fun. And like you said, and one other thing I wanted to mention, there were some really nice guys from Kansas City at the pitch. They wanted to keep this more of a sibling rivalry, which I kind of like the description. I'm like, you're saying that because you lost? He's like, no. Then when, if anybody from Chicago or Dallas or Nashville talks crap on us or Kansas City, kind of step in. We get to beat up on each other and then kind of move it. So just an interesting thought to let people think about it the rest of your Sunday.
Something to noodle on. Well, everyone think about that the rest of your Sunday and just be gracious and happy. We are out of the skid. It was really ugly, followed by really great. And we've done that before with the whole Cincinnati game too. So let's just hope we can get a little more consistent. I have a feeling we might have figured some things out last night that could help us moving forward, especially without Klaus for as long as that's going to be. But we will be back at you on Wednesday for a preview of the Vancouver home match. Can't wait to be back at City Park next weekend. Going to be electric. Stadium vibe was incredible last night. Shout out to all the fans. You guys made an immense atmosphere. I'm sure the boys love playing under those lights and with you all. So kudos to you all, City fans, and we'll be back with you on Wednesday. Everyone take care.
All for City.